Hello, sleepy voyagers. Tonight, your path curves outward, toward the pale horizon of Uranus, the tilted sentinel of the outer solar system. Suspended in twilight and silence, Uranus spins on its side beneath a sky of distant sun and ice-blue calm. Here, day and night stretch for decades, and even the light forgets to hurry. Before we begin our descent, tap like so this journey can find you again, and subscribe to join our crew for nightly voyages. Drop a comment with where you're listening from and what time it is. I love seeing our constellation of listeners glowing gently across the dark. Now take a moment to dim the lights, lower your screen brightness, and if you like, let a low hum play nearby, a sound as steady as the slow breath of Uranus beneath its rings. This isn't just a story, it's your quiet drift beneath a planet that leans into its sleep. When you're ready, close your eyes. You've arrived at Uranus. Here's what you'll feel in the next few minutes: a soft blue quiet, pressure that grows gently, and a wind that never raises its voice. We're going to Uranus, the seventh planet, tilted nearly on its side, to borrow its long pause between motions. Expect no storms, no sudden shifts, no bright bands. Expect a gradient without edges and a ship that keeps pace with a world that rolls instead of spins. If you need calm, stay. This is a guided descent into stillness, designed to lower tension and help you drift. What happens to fast thoughts when they meet a sky that never raises its voice? They arrive with momentum, like feet still moving after the train has stopped. Then the world around them refuses to echo, refuses to offer anything to push against. No storms, no lightning, no stripes to track, only a wide, steady quiet that does not care about speed. Your mind steps into it and finds nothing to spar with, nothing to chase, nothing to solve right now. The pace you brought in has nowhere to hook in. It slows because the environment gives it no foothold to climb. Uranus's upper atmosphere holds that kind of quiet. Think of it as a chamber where inputs are few and steady. Light arrives softened by methane haze. Wind exists, but it does not spike. The scene does not crowd you with signals. The ship sets a gentle, constant drift, and the air meets it with the same sameness. You sit within a controlled field where every variable stays low and predictable. No alarms, no sudden edges. The space has one rule: nothing startles. The promise is simple. When the world offers only calm data, your nervous system stops scanning for correction. Your day fed you highlights and sharp turns, notifications brightened, conversations layered, tasks overlapped. You trained your attention to flick to the nearest flare. Now lift your eyes to a planet that offers none. There are no bright bands racing around the equator, no storm tops punching through the cloud deck to demand a glance. No contrast that would force your focus to snap from one point to another. The gap between what you expected and what arrives here feels wide at first. That gap is the point. It lets your reflex to monitor wind down. It shows the system there is nothing to predict. Sunlight filters down as if through tinted glass, dim to a cool, soft tone. The haze spreads it evenly so shadows barely form. Every direction becomes a similar shade of blue. The horizon does not cut, it dissolves. You can track it for as long as you want and never find a place where it asserts an edge. Clouds, when they appear, are thin as gauze and move with no rush. You do not need to bracket them with your eyes. You can let them pass without taking hold of them. The space invites you to stop sorting and ranking. You do not have to assess what matters most because nothing competes. Calm often begins not with adding a technique, but with removing a trigger. Uranus helps by withholding. This is sensory restraint in practice. Light is low, color is soft, motion runs slow. Sound stays under the threshold where the body prepares for a spike. With fewer cues, the mind spends less energy deciding. With less deciding, the body lets go of vigilance. You are not forced to relax. You are allowed to relax because nothing tells you not to. Listen for the bass note beneath everything, the sound floor. Here it is, the wind, a steady breath across a broad open field. It does not climb suddenly or fall away. It holds a level like a tone generator set and forgotten. That floor matters. When the baseline stays level, the system does not brace for the next jump. It learns minute by minute that nothing is coming that needs an answer. The hum sits in the background, neither loud nor absent, and gives your body one simple, consistent reference. Environments with low variance are good at rounding off the reflex to scan. Your ears settle because no new frequency intrudes. Your eyes settle because the palette does not change. Your muscles settle because there is no cue to prepare for motion. Response systems that spent the day waiting for peaks find none. The absence does the work for you. The longer you stay, the more your baseline lowers to meet the room. Breath slows. Heart rate drifts down. The body backs away from the ledge of readiness and stands on steady ground. You might notice the shift as a small release at the jaw, a drop in the shoulders, a softer focus at the edge of your vision. The scan narrows, then goes quiet. You stop checking for the next thing. The next thing does not exist in this chamber. The wind continues its one note. The light holds its same shade. The ship keeps its line, neither climbing nor dipping. Your internal metronome, still fast from the day, waits for the world to mark the beat and finds a slow tempo that does not change. In that hush, the nervous system runs a test. It asks if anything needs a quick reaction. The environment answers with silence. It asks if effort will prevent a problem. The environment offers no problem to prevent. Without an opponent, tension has nothing to grip. It hangs for a moment, then slides off. You can feel the change like a belt loosened one notch. No effort earned it, conditions allowed it. The quiet is not empty. It is full of the kind of consistency that calms biology without negotiation. Details continue to hold you. The haze mutes glint and glare. The color field sits between blue and green, leaning neither way, and asks nothing of your attention. If a cloud threads past, it does so with the gentleness of a hand laid on still water. If you listen closely, the hum reveals small textures, the kind you notice and forget at the same time. Tiny variations inside the sameness that never rise to a call. They keep the mind from boredom without pulling it back to watchfulness. Your body maps this place as safe because it can predict the next moment with confidence. The next breath will sound like the last. the next second will look like the last. That certainty is rare. You lean into it without meaning to. Muscles release their micro holds. The brow smooths. Breathing chooses the longer path in and the longer path out. You do not decide to rest. You stop deciding against it. The space does the choosing for you. This is the hush test, and you are passing it by, doing nothing. Racing thoughts enter, find no purchase, and slow. The mind that learned to brace lets the brace melt. The system that watched for spikes meets a plain line and accepts it. There's nothing to answer because nothing asks. The relief lands without ceremony. You feel heavier where you sit, lighter in the head, and quiet in the chest. The planet did not impress you into calm. It held back so you could fall into it. Hold there for another breath, feeling the steadiness settle into the ribs. Ahead, the rhythm of this world will explain itself. A planet that rolls instead of spins sets a cadence you can trust, one that asks you to move slower because it always does. The tilt is not a spectacle. It is a clock that runs long, and it is ready to set your time. How does a planet that rolls instead of spins teach your mind to slow its cadence? It starts with orientation. Uranus tips almost on its side, so the axis you expect to point up decides to lie down. That near right angle tilt stretches day and night into long spans. A pole can face the sun for years, then turn away for years more. Change arrives at a measured pace. The sky keeps one theme for so long that the body stops waiting for the next cue. Your thoughts begin to match that timing without trying. They notice the length of each moment and settle inside it. On most worlds, seasons pivot quickly. Light swings across the day, angles shift, and you adapt again and again. Here, the rhythm is slower. The planet moves like a rolling barrel rather than a spinning top. A hemisphere leans into sunlight and keeps it not for days, but for a long chapter. The result is steady input. The light does not lurch from one angle to the next. The climate does not jump between patterns. With fewer flips, the internal pacing can stop racing for the next turn and accept the one it has. The pole aims toward the sun like a lantern turned sideways. That image holds because it explains the field of light spread across a cap rather than along an equator. A polar region basks, the opposite rests. The line between them slides slowly as the years move on. Nothing rushes the hand that moves the light. You can sense that drag in the way the ship's windows hold the same hue for a long stretch. The planet's posture becomes a lesson. Keep your face where it is, keep your breathing even, and let the hours pool instead of spill. Long seasons cut back on abrupt transitions. They remove the snap that makes the nervous system jump. When inputs change slowly, the body stops rehearsing responses. It stops predicting the next switch. That quiets the clock inside your chest that often ticks ahead of the moment. The mind does not have to speed run contingencies. It can write a single setting. In the ship, you can test this by watching your breath. Hold one tempo for several cycles and notice how resistance fades when nothing around you asks you to shift. Your sigh lands deeper, the shoulders lower and do not rise again as quickly. You can borrow this tilt for the night. Do fewer switches, pick a light level, and hold it. Choose one position and stay with it longer before adjusting. Keep the audio constant, one volume, one tone. When you scale down the number of transitions, you take friction out of the hour. The body reads that consistency as permission to downshift. If your mind reaches for a new task, offer it the same answer each time, not changing yet. The practice is simple and stubborn. Set a line and keep it, the way a pole keeps its face to the sun until the cycle completes. Predictability lowers anticipatory anxiety. That is the simple math of sleep onset. When your system can forecast the next minute, it stops hoarding energy to handle an unknown. The breath loses the tiny catch before each exhale. The jaw eases because it no longer preps for a call to act. Predictability does not mean boredom, it means relief, the kind that shows up when the environment becomes knowable. Uranus gives you the model, a long, clear pattern that does not yank you forward. The ship leans into this. Guidance sets a slow roll to match the planet's orientation. Thrusters whisper at intervals, so even they blend into a single curve. You feel the floor's pull drift left, then right, over spans that take their time. Instruments confirm the steady rate, but you do not need them. Your inner ear tells the story. It stops catching for corrections because corrections never come fast. Muscles along the spine loosen their grip. The small stabilizers in your ankles and hips, which usually answer to quick changes, get little to do. Your body learns the curve and lets it carry you. As the minutes pass, your inner metronome drops. A thought that would normally sprint arrives and chooses to walk. Breaths lengthen at the ends, then flow into a new cycle without a push. You may feel a slight ache release in the neck as the head finds a comfortable angle and stays put. The ship's slow alignment feeds your timing with the same beat. You are not forcing anything. You are collecting the rhythm the world offers and letting it set the pace for your system. This is not a trick. It is a consequence of living in a stable pattern. The light outside supports it. With the pole turned toward the sun, the glow holds steady, filtered, and low, with no quick drop or rise. Your eyes stop hunting. They pick one brightness and stay calibrated. Inside, indicators dim to a fixed level so your pupils do not have to chase micro fluctuations. Even your skin, which reads temperature and air movement, gets the same slow story. No gust, no thermal spike, no draft sliding under a cuff. Stability reaches every sensor you own. Think of how often you change lanes during a normal day. Tabs, topics, tones. Each switch taxes attention. Here, the ecosystem of movement has one rule: keep to one lane for a long stretch. If a thought asks for a lane change, it sees a long, clear stripe and decides it can wait. The weight itself lowers pressure. Without urgency, the body stops throwing small jolts of adrenaline to keep up. That alone makes the bed feel closer. You can train this by timing your next several breaths to the slow roll. Let each inhale fill to the count that matches one side of the turn, each exhale to the other. No drama, no stretching for effect, just a pairing with a rhythm that will not speed up to meet you. After a handful of cycles, check your hands. Notice if the fingers have unclenched from their tiny holds. Check the tongue, it likely rests lower. Small signs tell you that the cadence has reached the deeper systems. Stay with that. The world around you keeps its unhurried posture. The ship holds its match to the tilt and the long season. Your mind no longer needs to track for change. It trusts that change will take its time. The sense of being carried replaces the sense of having to keep up. That is the lesson of a planet that rolls. It shows you how to keep a slow beat without apology, and your body hears it. Hold to that beat as you begin the next step. The descent will bring more pressure, yet every change arrives without a jolt, like a blanket added layer by layer. Can increasing pressure relax you when every change arrives without a jolt? You test that question the moment the ship dips into the upper atmosphere and the cabin reads the first slight climb in density. Nothing pushes, nothing grabs. The contact is even, like stepping into water that shares its temperature with your skin. You feel more held than pressed. The craft keeps its slow match to the world's roll, and the air begins to lay its quiet hand across the hull. The first layers are spare. Hydrogen and helium drift in wide, thin sheets with pale, gauzy clouds that seem to choose transparency over form. They slide past without casting shadows. You hear the faintest change in the background systems as they balance for buoyancy. But even those sounds arrive leveled, trimmed of any edge that could snag your attention. The cabin air stays stable. The seat takes your weight the same way it did a minute ago. Only the instruments note the difference, and even they do it without a beep. The entry reads like a nod, not a step. Pressure often means stress. In daily life, it brings deadlines, weight, urgency. Here, it trades those markers for comfort. The way the atmosphere gathers around you resembles a blanket settling, not a load added. Each meter deeper smooths a trace of vibration. Small rattles fade. The skin across your forearms notices a soft, even warmth as circulation eases and the last chill of high altitude leaves. Your breath measures the space and finds no resistance at the top of the inhale, no rush to leave on the exhale. It moves because the rhythm outside moves, not because anything inside pushes. Look outward and you catch how the deepening works. There is no border between layers, no sudden crease where the sky changes its mind. Blues darken by degrees that are hard to mark in time. The soft haze thickens without choosing a line to show it. Your eyes try to find a threshold and come up empty, then they stop trying. Lines exist when change argues with itself. Here, change stays in agreement. The descent holds the same tone for long stretches, then lets that tone slip a fraction lower. That kind of drift mirrors the best parts of relaxation work. Effective easing down is not a trick. It is a series of gentle increments the body barely needs to notice. You reduce the difference between one moment and the next until effort loses its job. In this air, that method plays out around you. The stimuli do not jump. They sag slowly, like a held note finding a slightly lower key without breaking. Your pulse answers with a shift so small you only notice it when your hands warm and your jaw stops tracing the bite of the day. Pair your breathing with the descent. Let the inhale arrive on its own. On the exhale, release just a little more, as if that breath were enough to drop you one quiet layer lower. There is no target depth. There is only the next small step, another slow exhale, another gentle drop. The body learns quickly when the cues are soft and consistent. You do not coax the diaphragm. You let it finish its motion at a pace that fits the ship's drift. A few cycles in, the pause at the end of the exhale lengthens by a fraction, and that fraction is all it takes for the nervous system to read safe. When stimuli stay continuous and smooth, startle has nowhere to hide. The urge to monitor lives on edges and gaps, on the expectation that something might spike. Here, the floor holds. The hum does not flicker. The hues do not jump. Your ears do not prepare for a crack of thunder because none comes. The eyes stop sampling for high contrast movement because none appears. Vigilance loosens its grip because the world refuses to reward it with an event. The wind maintains a low, even tone. It does not gust or hiss. It trades peaks for a steady path across the hull that stays inside one narrow band of sound. If you track it, you hear minor textures, soft grain-like shifts that never rise. Those micro-variations keep the brain from straining to fill silence without pulling it back into watch. They act like a steady hand on the back, not pushing, not holding, simply present and level. Nothing in this descent hurries. Systems adjust slowly enough that your balance organs adapt without sending correction signals. The seat grows a bit more welcoming as the body distributes weight into it. Muscles that grip during changes find nothing to answer. The back lets go at the places where you usually feel the need to anchor. The neck stops waiting for a sway that never arrives. You feel heavier in the best way, not pinned, but supported by a medium that carries more of you with each minute. If you listen for thunder, you find only air. If you wait for a jolt, you find only continuity. The body reads that message and stops budgeting for impact. The shoulders fall and do not spring back. The palms open without you telling them to. Skin temperature evens, which is the quiet sign that the stress cycle has eased its loop. Even the small muscles around the eyes, the ones that watch for flicker, settle into a neutral tone. No alarm is needed. No alarm will pay. You can test how fully the system has accepted the weight by noticing the breath at the base of the ribs. As pressure increases, the ribs do not resist. They welcome the extra contact as information that the environment is stable. Each exhale rides down and meets that support. Each inhale rises with no urgency because the next exhale will find the same landing. In that repetition, the body chooses to rest. It is not giving up control. It is handing control to a process that has earned trust. As the minutes pass, the dim blue deepens another shade. The light still reaches you, but it speaks softly now, more memory than brightness. The mind follows, stepping down its own intensity without the need to click a switch. This is the small payoff of a gentle descent. Weight and warmth arrive without setting off alarms, and your system, relieved of its duty to guard against shocks, uses the freed energy to settle. Stay with that small shift. Let the next breath take you one layer lower with no rush. Outside, the color continues to change without edges, teaching your thoughts how to release in increments, each tone quieter than the last. Why do thoughts lose their sharp corners in a sky with no lines? They try to find an outline to hang on to and cannot. The view offers no boundary to grab, no stripe to chase, no flare to demand a reaction. The mind reaches out, touches smooth color, and stops gripping. The reflex to outline fades because there is nothing to outline. You are left with a broad field that holds you without asking for a decision. The edges that fed your momentum go missing, and with them, the pace they set. Pale turquoise sits at the top, thin and cool, and it shifts by degrees as you go lower. The light, already soft, dims without choosing a moment to do so. The blue deepens, not in jumps, but in gentle steps that resist measurement. One shade holds long enough for your eyes to settle, then leans quietly toward the next. The scene moves without a hinge or seam. Even the faintest bands dissolve before they form. The field becomes a continuous wash, where brightness does not punch and darkness does not close in. Your vision picks a point, finds nothing to track, and rests where it is. Our minds cling to edges because edges hint at change, and change can matter. The habit is old and useful during the day. Here it has no work to do. Uranus lifts the edges out of the frame. The horizon blurs, boundaries soften, contrast levels off. You do not lose detail, you lose the demand to compare. When the eye cannot leap to a new target, attention stays home. The part of you that ranks priorities goes quiet because nothing competes for the top of the list. Color that shifts gently becomes a guide for your nerves. Each small darkening signals one notch down the arousal dial. It happens too slowly to trigger effort. You are not trying to relax. The room lowers the volume and your system follows. The gradient acts like a hand on a dimmer, not a switch. No clicks, no pops between modes. Arousal steps down in the same smooth curve the sky holds. The mind tracks the curve and releases tension in small, even portions, rather than all at once. Low contrast is kind to a tired brain. With few sharp differences to parse, the visual cortex stands down from its sorting job. Cognitive load drops because there is less to resolve. You are no longer choosing between brighter and darker, faster and slower, near and far. The field stays stable across your view, and stability makes fewer demands. The body interprets stability as safety. When safety feels certain, the impulse to stay alert turns down. The lack of bright bands means your gaze stops scanning in loops. Normally, a high-contrast scene makes the eyes jump, checking edges for change. In this air, the jump cycle never starts. Smooth color gives no cue to the saccades that hunt for motion. Your eyes move less. Less movement feeds back as calm. The tiny muscles around the socket ease. The brow releases its small frown. The head tilts to a neutral angle and stays there longer than usual. Fewer contrasts also mean fewer decisions. You are not deciding which point to watch. You are not deciding if a new element matters. The brain's choosing machinery idles. When choosing idles, space opens. That space is not empty. It allows rest to expand. Breath notices the opening and extends into it. The exhale finds more room and uses it. The inhale arrives without a pull. Each cycle gets a little longer at the edges. Over minutes, the atmosphere resolves into a single instruction, less and quieter. The message repeats without pushing. Your nervous system accepts the instruction because it stays consistent. Every sensor in you hears the same thing from color, from light level, from the absence of edges. The agreement across senses builds trust. With trust in place, the body stops shopping for information and begins to idle at a lower speed. You may notice how thoughts respond. The sharp ones, arguments, to-do lists, replies you could have said, start to round off. Their angles soften as if sanded by time. They show up duller, slower, less insistent. Some fall apart mid-sentence and slide away. Others hang back, neither urgent nor gone, then drift as the next shade replaces the last. The gradient's pace writes itself into them. They do not end. They ease down. Even memory follows the color downward. Bright moments lose their glare. The mind keeps them, but not with the same edge. Associations relax. If a song rises, it fades into the tone of the room without snagging attention. If an image appears, it dissolves at the edges, like a cloud surrendering to the field. You do not push thoughts away. The environment accepts them and edits their contrast until they do not press. Your body mirrors the same slope. Shoulders settle, not as a single drop, but as a series of small releases that add up. The jaw lets go, remakes contact, then lets go more. Fingers loosen their curl in stages. Even the gut finds its own gradient, letting tension drain slowly rather than all at once. These changes are easier to keep because they are small. The system adopts the pace it can sustain. Stay with the view. Pale turquoise leans to a deeper tone, then to one deeper still. The difference between each step shrinks until you cannot tell when one becomes the next. That uncertainty is helpful. It means the mind cannot mark progress and does not try to rush it. Without a milestone to chase, urgency thins. The sense of time stretches, and in that stretch, effort leaks away. Effort often rides on clocks and markers. Remove them, and the body remembers how to idle. The payoff here is quiet and real. The mind mirrors the gradient and releases in stages. No single sigh fixes everything. 100 small sighs do the work. You cannot count them. You do not need to. The room does the counting for you, measuring out each shade and letting you step down with it. If the mind reaches for a sharper color, the field absorbs it and returns to smooth. Keep your eyes soft. Let them rest on a patch that does not differ much from its neighbor. If they close, the gradient stays behind your eyelids as a memory of tone, and memory is enough to carry the effect. Your breath keeps time with it, in on a shade, out on the next. Nothing breaks the line between them. Hold to that line as another sense takes the lead. Beneath the color sits a steady sound, one level, low and even, the kind that gives your system a stable floor to stand on while the rest keeps drifting down. What if one sound, steady and quiet, could outlast your inner noise? Let it be the wind here, pressed into a single tone that does not rise or fall. It is not a song, it is not a warning, it is the held note of a world that has chosen the low setting and stays there. You arrive with chatter clacking at different tempos, and the tone does not argue. It holds its level. Your system notices what does not change and starts to treat that as the safest thing in the room. Uranus's winds at this height keep to a narrow band. No gusts strike the hull. No hiss cuts through the ear. The sound spreads out like a long, even line that neither thins nor thickens. Instruments account for it once and then stop asking for updates because there are none. The cabin relays that sameness as a soft, constant pressure against the air, a presence you can hear and feel without needing to track it. When the environment offers one stable input, everything that feeds on surprise goes hungry. Your mind expects spikes. It is trained to catch the click before the kettle, the buzz before the text, the honk before the stop. Spikes call for action, so vigilance listens for them. Here, none arrive. Seconds pass with the same low tone. Minutes do too. The watchful part waits and gets no payoff. With no peak to gear up for, The nervous system marks the tone as background and starts to let go of the raised posture. Brows smooth, eyes soften. The tiny muscles in the ear, the ones that tighten for a sharp sound, stay easy. Let that tone be your metronome. Inhale to it, exhale to it. The wind will not sprint ahead or lag behind. You can set a breath length that fits the sound and keep it. Steady in, steady out. No need for counts if numbers get in the way. The tone held does the counting for you. As you match it, the breath stops tripping at the turnarounds. The top of the inhale no longer feels like a cliff. It feels like the moment the tone continues. The base of the exhale is the same. No drop. Just the note, still there, ready for the next cycle. A constant neutral sound masks irregular internal chatter. Loose thoughts try to break through with odd rhythms, memories that jab, tasks that peck, phrases that loop with mismatched beats. The wind lays a sheet over them. It does not silence them by force. It covers the gaps where they would hook your attention. Irregular edges disappear beneath a surface that has no edges at all. You hear through them to the simple tone. The brain prefers simple. When it is tired, it will pick the one line over 20 fragments because that costs less. Translate the sameness into a body cue. Make the exhale your release. Each time the tone holds, let the shoulders yield a fraction. Let the jaw loosen one notch. Let the tongue rest on the floor of the mouth. Small, repeatable steps. The wind gives you a reason. It stays the same so you can let go the same way, again and again. Not a big drop. A steady series of tiny drops the body can absorb without question. The next exhale will ask for the same. You will be ready because nothing else will interrupt. Regular rhythms entrain. Biology does it everywhere. Heart cells, gait, breath. Give it a clean beat and it falls into step. This tone is the cleanest beat you will get tonight. No harmonics you have to manage, no syncopation to catch you. It sits there like a line drawn across time, and you step onto it. Heart rate pairs with breath, breath pairs with sound. Muscles take the hint from both and release in that order. You do not direct it. The alignment happens because the inputs agree. Pay attention to the lack of interruptions. The wind does not peak. It does not dive. The ship does not throw a correction that breaks the hold. Even the light outside keeps to the same narrow range. Without a wedge to split your focus, your attention stops fracturing. The mind that braced for a break finds continuity instead and stores that as proof. The proof tells your body it can drift without losing track. It can let breath lengthen without risking a missed signal. Safety here is not an idea. It is a pattern that does not deviate. If a stray thought bursts in, you do not chase it. You set it on the tone and let the edges wear down. Sharp words lose their bite when they sit on a sound that does not react. Images fade when they cannot get a rise. The hum does not argue or answer. It allows the mind's noise to pass through and return as part of its own level field. A few rounds of breath and the urgency drains because the environment refuses to feed it. Notice the body's small markers that the entrainment has taken hold. Fingers uncurl. The belly softens on the out-breath and stays softer into the next in-breath. The back of the neck warms as tension slips from the base of the skull. The diaphragm moves with less effort. It stops asking for proof at the end of each cycle. The floor feels firmer, not because it changed, but because your muscles stopped hovering above it. One tone remains. Everything else falls into its lane. This is the mini payoff you came for. One steady sound outlasts your inner noise. The brain stops waiting for a spike that never comes. The body stops preparing to catch a fall that will not happen. Your breath finds its groove and keeps it without supervision. The hum continues, unbothered, unchanged, and your thoughts line up behind it like small boats on a slow current. No strain, no tricks, just the simplest beat doing quiet work until quiet becomes normal. Keep your hearing soft. Keep the exhale easy. Let your eyes lift outward now, past the cabin edge, to where faint rings take light in and give it back like breath, and where distant moons hold their place without asking you to follow. How does motion calm you when it looks like nothing at all? You meet it in the ring plane, movement so restrained it hides in plain sight. The rings hang there like a diffuse hush, thin arcs that take a little light and breathe it back out. No glitter, no sweep of glare, only a soft exchange that repeats without asking for your eyes. Your mind reaches for a show and finds a steady rhythm instead, the kind that lets effort fall away. The rings catch faint sunlight, hold it, then let it go. The glow rises gently and settles by the same degree, again and again. You can watch for a long time and not catch a single sharp change. Dust and ice do their work quietly. Their orbits are patient. They pass through the beam and share it with the same even tone you've been learning to trust. The ship eases along the plane, and the view keeps its calm. No spray of brightness, no hard edge of shadow. Just a breath-like pulse. We often look for spectacle. We expect arcs of light to flare or break to grab attention. The rings refuse. They set a limit on what they will show. That restraint helps. By holding back, they remove the hooks your attention would normally use. You do not need to rank or chase. You can sit with small changes that land the same way each time. The absence of drama is itself the cue. The nervous system hears it and lets the shoulders give a little, the jaw drop a notch, the breath widen. Their presence is known more by what they don't do. There is no flicker to snare the eye. There is no strobe of crossing shadows. When a particle cluster reflects, it does so like a calm lung. Lift, release, lift, release. At this distance, you cannot pick out one piece from another. You only register the field and its steady tone. That lack of granularity is a gift. Without discrete targets, your gaze stops jumping. It sets down and stays. Subtle repetition signals safety. When the same pattern returns on time, the body stops guarding the doorway. Cycle after cycle, the rings offer the same answer. Your sternum eases, breath lengthens. The exhale smooths out at the base and lingers a moment, then glides forward. You do not press for this change. The loop handles the timing, and your system follows. All it needed was proof that the next moment would match the last. The ship passes through stretches of near dark, and nothing jolts. Sensors make minor trims you do not feel. The cabin lights hold steady. Outside, the ring arc thins, thickens, then thins again, always inside a narrow band. No shout, no surprise. Even the wind hum keeps its line beneath it all. You register continuity with two senses at once. Sight and sound agree that nothing intends to rise. That agreement lets deeper systems go quiet. Minimal visual change reduces tracking. The eye stops scanning for anomalies and yields to the base layer of experience. Contact with the seat, weight through the back, a quiet warmth at the hands. Attention settles inward because nothing outside bids it to pivot. When the world stops asking, your body stops answering. The small muscles along the spine, the ones that ready you to brace, release incrementally. The pelvis finds a balanced angle and keeps it. You do less. Doing less feels safe. You can take the ring's cue and let movement become breathing. In light, out light. Count nothing. Follow the soft rise as the arc brightens, and let your inhale rise with it. Follow the soft fall as it dims, and let your exhale ease through the same slope. Each cycle lands where the last one did. The mind recognizes the return and lets the loop run. No goal, no finish, just a pattern that favors staying over changing. As the pairing takes hold, your breath stops trying to lead. It rides, in on the lift, out on the release. The chest moves with less effort. The throat feels wider. Even the belly joins, softening on schedule without you telling it to comply. The feedback is clean. The field repeats, so you can repeat. This is how a simple orbit becomes a body instruction. You absorb it without analysis. If a thought interrupts, there is nowhere for it to catch. The ring light does not pause to debate. It continues its quiet loop, and the thought faces a choice: match the pace or leave. Many leave. The ones that stay lose their urgency. They flatten into the background, carried along at the same speed as the dust. You can watch this happen and not engage. The environment handles the smoothing. You may notice a small drift in time perception. Without events, minutes feel wider. The longer span holds your breath like a slow river holds a leaf. This is the body's way of acknowledging predictability. It stops breaking the moment into pieces to watch for change. When time widens, control loosens without fear. You sit deeper. You stop rehearsing responses. Urgency thins to a thread. There is quiet detail if you want it. A faint grain in the light where clusters pass. A soft curve at the ring's outer edge that never hardens into a line. A dim echo of shadow that never sharpens. Each element sits inside the same rule. Small, steady, repeat. Your senses can visit these textures and return calm, because none of them ask for action. This is the mini payoff. Your breath sinks with the quiet orbit of dust and ice. The lungs take the tempo from the ring cycle, and the heart trims its pace to fit. Shoulders forget to rise at the top of the inhale. The exhale finds its full length without trying to claim it. Thought backs away from the controls and lets the loop steer. Nothing big happens. That is the point. Keep to that ease and let your gaze drift beyond the plane. Far out, companions keep their lanes, distant, named and hushed, holding their stories in ice while you pass, undisturbed. Can distant companions soothe simply by staying quiet? Out here, yes. You meet them one by one as small, pale shapes holding their own lanes. They do not blink for your attention or tilt to catch light for effect. They keep their quiet, and that quiet meets you like cool air in a calm room. Your eyes rest because nothing beckons. Your breath keeps its new pace because nothing disrupts it. The company is real, but the demands are none. There are many of them, small bodies with frozen surfaces that keep their stories sealed. Each one carries a record of time pressed into ice, cracks, planes, muted ridges, but they present none of it as a call. They hold and turn. That is enough. You can sense weight and distance without drama. The ship lists their positions in a side panel and then leaves the list alone. The world outside is content to be present without asking to be read. Your mind expects calls and replies. By habit, it leans toward anything that might need an answer. Out here, no such need arrives. The moons do not flash. They do not drift into your path. They keep to their orbits and let your lane stay clear. That lack of pull is its own kind of help. You get to stay with your breath and your seat and your steady point of view. The urge to prepare a response fades when there's nothing to respond to. They keep their distance in a way that feels intentional, even though it is only physics and time. You watch one slide across the edge of the window and then leave the frame without once nudging the ship or your attention. Another hovers farther out, a dim coin held in a slow turn. Silence holds between you. You are allowed to pass without eye contact. Companionship in this form means not asking for anything. Non-interference is a form of care. It allows the nervous system to step down instead of step up. You can relax into your own center because the space around you is not trying to fill you. Permission to rest arrives in the simplest way here. Nothing asks, nothing insists, nothing presses. The body understands that as safety. Muscles release because they are not needed. The inner voice stops rehearsing the next line. Many of these companions carry names from old plays and poems, words that usually come with dialogue. Tonight they keep the covers closed. The references stay in the background like labels on a map you are not reading. You know the names exist. You do not need to think them. The quiet holds either way. Story is present, but not performing. The scene values rest more than recognition. Background presence without action lowers the urge to respond. The brain sees a shape, notes it, and then files it under stable. Once it earns that label, it stops asking for updates. You feel this as a soft widening at the edges of your attention. You become aware of a larger field while staying with your breath. The room inside you grows, and nothing tries to enter. The view stays whole, and you stay unchanged. You remain centered. The ship holds its line. The slow roll continues without a bump. Your body learns that even with company, you do not have to adjust. No orbit crosses you. No shadow falls sharp. The seat, the floor, the tone in the air, these are your anchors, and they do not shift. When the outside does not tug, the inside does not sway. That is how balance becomes easy. Peace arrives here by subtraction. No summons, no invitation you need to decline, no test to pass. Just a quiet chorus of small worlds doing what they do far away from your hands. The relief is not dramatic. It settles in by degrees. Shoulders forget to lift at the end of the inhale. Fingers stop bracing at the pads. The mouth rests without clench. The forehead smooths, not all at once, but enough to notice. If a thought tries to recruit you, an old worry, a line from the day, it finds a room already full of stillness. The moons hold their places and offer no extra energy to feed it. With no echo, the thought does not grow. It stands there, then softens, then steps back. You do not have to push it away. The environment handles the de-escalation by refusing to add momentum. The view gives you practical cues for the body. Keep your gaze soft and let it slide past a moon without catching. Feel how the breath stays, even when attention steps over a detail. Let the exhale go all the way to its base, and see how the inhale returns by itself without a pull. Your neck sets a comfortable angle and discovers it does not need to change. This is how the presence of quiet company trains you to hold your own lane. Distance here does not mean absence. It means room. Room for you to lower your pace without worry that you will miss a signal. Room to let the back sink into the support behind you. Room to allow the belly to soften and the ribs to widen and narrow on their own. You can feel how the system prefers this. The longer it goes without interruption, the less it checks for one. If you glance back, you see a pale point slide a fraction, then hold, then slide again. That is the whole story. No page turns, no scene shifts. Your mind learns to read that pattern as finished business. Finished business does not need you to hold it. You set it down, and it stays put. In that trust, the nervous system sheds duties it did not need to carry into the night. This is your small reward. Peace comes not from attention, but from being left alone by things that could have asked for it. The quiet of distant company supports you better than a show could. You can rest because there is nothing to manage. The proof sits out the window, turning at a pace that lets you behave like you have time. Stay with the center you have found. The field around you will keep its shape. Ahead, you return to the descent. The layers below grow denser at the same slow rate, pressure gathering without a shove, and the path remains free of surprises. Why does restraint feel safer than spectacle at bedtime? Because at this hour, your system reads every flare as a reason to hold on. You need a place that holds back. Out here, the world does. It keeps the volume down. It does not reach for your attention. It leaves space for you to release what you've been carrying. Think about the temperament in front of you. Some giants perform. They parade bands, stack storms, and throw bright contrasts across their faces. They turn the sky into a sequence of events. Uranus declines the role. The face stays even. The colors keep close. The stage lights remain low. You do not get a cue to brace, and that missing cue becomes the point. The quiet is not a lack, it's the setting. You might arrive expecting drama, because space stories train you to look for it. You expect collisions, shocks, peaks. Then, you meet a scene that refuses to escalate. Minutes pass, nothing erupts. The sky does not ripple into a crisis. The calm proves itself by continuing. The expectation that something will happen begins to let go, and with it, the grip you hold in your shoulders. No flash, no stripes, no speaking thunder. The field declines to punctuate itself. It's like a sentence made of soft consonants that never needs a shout. Your senses map the surface for a jolt and find none. The scan cycle winds down, the neck stops setting for impact. The eyes stop waiting for a flare at the edge of the frame. You sit closer to stillness because there is no reason to stand. In sleep work, removing triggers can matter as much as adding techniques. You can try breaths and counts and positions, and they help. But a quiet setting clears the path before you take the first step. Less glare means fewer pupil shifts. Fewer edges means fewer saccades. A single tone means fewer startles. Each subtraction frees the next release to happen on its own. You spend less effort managing the process, so more of you can drop. Hold the frame of this world, restraint over display. It prefers to keep signals small and steady. It will not chase your eye with stripes. It will not pull your ear with cracks. It will not use contrast to take charge of your attention. That choice defines the mood. A room that refuses to escalate lets your body forget how to escalate. The habit that moves you toward sleep can settle in, unbothered. Your body trusts spaces that do not ask for rapid adaptation. When inputs stay level, reflexes stop rehearsing. You do not keep scanning for the next condition. Breath loses the catch at the turn. The jaw quiets, not from effort, but from lack of orders to clench. Trust builds across minutes of sameness. It is not theatrical, it is practical. The next moment looks like the last, and the one after, too. Let the silence be chosen, not empty. Chosen silence has structure. Systems hold their levels. Controls dim and stay dim. Movements happen on slow curves. Light fits inside a narrow band and refuses to step out. Sound settles into the low hum you already know. Each part agrees to stay small. The agreement is the act. The world is not missing something. It is declining something, and that decision is for you. You can practice the same stance. Choose not to add. Do not reach for a new track. Do not hunt for a better angle. Avoid the next stretch if the current one holds. Keep the covers where they are. Let the breath run the same length a few cycles longer than you normally would. Each non-action settles the system deeper into predictability. The absence becomes the support. Notice how your posture answers. The back releases in segments, first between the shoulder blades, then lower. The hands ease into the surface they rest on and stop rehearsing tiny lifts. The mouth opens just enough to let the tongue rest low. All of it happens in small pieces, each allowed by quiet conditions. You are not pushing into calm. You are falling into a space designed to catch you. If a thought tries to make a case for urgency, let the room vote. The vote is no. The environment offers no proof that speed will help. With no proof, the body does not issue adrenaline for the trial. The thought arrives without fuel and leaves the same way. You do not argue. You let it track out until it has nothing left to ask. There is relief in a world that under-promises. It says, here is one tone, here is one color range, here is one pace. That is enough. You get to stop seeking the better option. Decision load drops. Once decisions thin out, sleep has a lane. The lane does not need to be carved. It already exists in the shape of this place and the way it holds back. Restraint feels safe because it keeps the edges smooth. It gives you time to feel without reacting. It offers a surface without spikes. The nervous system learns the contour and relaxes around it. The more it repeats, the easier the pattern becomes to trust. Competing signals fade. Singular signals remain. You meet them and match them. This is the mini payoff. The planet's restraint becomes your assurance. You see no flash, and your blink rate slows. You hear no thunder, and your chest loosens. You feel no stripes, and your gaze rests. The room's refusal to rise tells your body it does not need to defend. You sink a little further. Effort steps back another half step. The baseline resets lower. Stay with that sense of held-back ease. Ahead, the world will dim at the same unhurried pace, and light will stop being an object in front of you and start being a memory inside you. A softer guide that leads you into the deepest layers without ever turning abrupt. What happens when brightness fades without leaving you in the dark? It starts as a gentle loss, not a drop. The cabin dimmer steps down one notch, then waits. Outside, the haze carries less light than a moment ago, but not by enough to make the eye flinch. You register the change the way you notice a tide shift, subtle even, safe. Illumination narrows, and your attention moves inward without feeling pulled. The world does not vanish. It softens until it rests at the edge of awareness. As the descent continues, the glow drains at a steady rate. The sky keeps its same palette while the volume lowers. Surfaces closest to you hold a muted outline. Anything farther away lets go of detail and becomes a shape with no demand attached. The ship's panel lights hold a low setting and stop asking your pupils to adjust. The view gives fewer cues each minute. With fewer cues, your senses can afford to idle. You do not have to track a scene that no longer asks to be tracked. Darkness can alarm when it falls fast. Here, it does not fall. It arrives like a hand that knows how to settle a blanket without stirring the sleeper. Every reduction is small. The eye notes it and moves on. The body reads slow change as non-threat. Your breath keeps its length. Shoulders do not brace. The room gives you time to recognize the shift and accept it. Trust builds with each notch downward because each notch lands without a jolt. Your eyes stop hunting for edges. At first they try, tiny saccades, small jumps looking for contrast. Then the scene offers none worth chasing, and the eyes stand down. They rest in a soft focus, lids a little heavier, gaze somewhere that does not ask for precision. Without edges to match, thoughts stop racing to meet them. The loop that ties fast visuals to fast thinking breaks. Ideas stop elbowing for rank. They thin out, line up, and wait their turn. Many move to the back of the line and dissolve. This kind of dimming supports the chemistry of rest. When light decreases along a smooth curve, the internal clock registers evening instead of outage. The brain favors the signal that says slow down rather than hide. You are not forcing a state. You are letting a predictable input guide the next systems in line. Hormonal cascades do better with slopes than cliffs. Give them a slope, and the message travels cleanly. Fewer signals, lower effort, time to ease. Match breath to the shade. Let each inhale arrive in the current light, and let each exhale step you one tone quieter. There is no target color, there is only the next small dim. On the exhale, feel the base of the ribs meet support, then wait for the smallest pause before the next inhale. That pause is where a notch lowers on its own. You do not pull it down, you notice it moving and allow it. Cycle by cycle, the body understands the cue. It knows this pattern. It has seen evening before and knows how to follow. Predictable reduction in input lowers arousal thresholds. Your startle systems keep a buffer when they expect surprises. Here, nothing surprises, so the buffer shrinks. The ears stop leaning forward for a crack. The eyes stop widening for contrast. The skin stops bracing for a draft. Baseline activation drops because every channel reports the same thing, steady, slow, no event. The body hears the agreement and lets go of the micro tensions that make rest hard. You float, not fall. The ship keeps pace with the planet's long roll, so balance organs never need to send panic corrections. Weight spreads evenly. The seat returns the same pressure to the same points. The cabin air keeps its temperature, so your skin does not flag a change. Motion never pushes, it carries. Falling wakes the body to catch itself. Floating tells it there is nothing to catch. That single difference frees the muscles at the neck and the small stabilizers down the spine. Outside, the glow leans toward memory. You can still say there is light, but the word describes a recollection as much as a sight. Shapes hold their place while their edges soften out of responsibility. The eye lets the lids drop a little lower and still sees enough. When it closes, the sense of the light remains behind them, like the after echo of a tone you know by heart. The mind accepts that echo as guidance and does not reach for a brighter source. The hum under everything stays at one level. It supports the change the way a quiet bass line supports a melody as it fades. Sound does not dim, it maintains. That constancy matters. While light lowers, something else holds. One system travels down the slope, another marks the road. You feel the security of a stable reference, while a second cue gives permission to step down. Redundancy builds trust. Trust lowers effort. If a flicker of worry tests the edges, will it get too dark? Will I miss something? The next moment answers by simply being like the last. No loss of safety, no spike. The concern arrives without fuel because the environment offers none. With no new input to process, the thought stalls and recedes. You did nothing to defeat it. Lack of reinforcement did the work. The nervous system learns faster from what does not happen than from arguments about it. Hands warm as vessels open, the face slackens, the tongue rests, breaths lengthen into their ends until each exhale sounds like a long, low note that fades into the hum. There is no cliff at the bottom of the breath, only a floor that waits. You meet the floor, stand on it for a beat you do not count, and rise again without push. The speed of the world around you rewards patience. Patience begins to feel like your native speed. You can check the cabin once more without breaking the spell. Panels remain dim. Indicators swap from icons to small dots. The window holds a uniform tone with faint gradients at the edge. No part of the scene asks you to wake up your focus. This is the earned quiet. The mind takes the hint and marks the change not as loss, but as allowance. It treats the fading light as permission. Sleep moves from option to invitation, and from invitation to default. Stay with the sense that you are being carried, not dropped. The next image is simple and useful. Floating as the model for drifting off, a motion that keeps support under you while every signal softens in place. Why does floating unlock sleep when falling keeps you alert? Think about how the body reacts to each. A fall switches on every brace you have. Ankles tighten, neck prepares, breath holds at the top. A float does the opposite. It spreads weight out, adds support under every point, and removes urgency. The difference is not poetic, it is practical. Falling suggests a problem to solve. Floating says there is nothing to solve. Your system reads that signal and steps down. Floating is controlled motion with no surprises. In the cabin, every change arrives as a smooth curve. The seat holds you evenly. The floor returns the same pressure every second. Air stays at one temperature, one movement, no gusts. The guidance keeps the ship on a path that does not require corrections you can feel. You sense motion only as a quiet drift you do not have to manage. No angles change fast, No surfaces drag or slip. Control is present and quiet. You are being carried, and the carrier does not make a show of it. Falling implies risk because the ground comes at you, and you do not know when contact will bite. The body prepares to catch itself and spends energy on that task. Floating implies support because contact already exists. The medium holds you. The mind checks for loss of footing and finds none. That absence matters. It tells the reflexes they can stand down. Legs stop guarding the knees. Hands stop hovering above a brace. The core releases from its stiff hold. You keep the parts you need to breathe and let the rest go quiet. The ship's motion matches Uranus's slow roll, so there is no mismatch to correct. You do not feel a tug one way while the view slides another. The long turn keeps a pace that never jumps. Thrusters adjust on a line so smooth you could place a glass of water on the panel and watch the surface stay level. Your inner ear reads one signal. It sends no alarms. The result is simple. No lurch, no microcatch, no reason to grip the armrest. Predictable motion replaces the unknown. Safety perception lowers muscle tone. When your environment proves it will not ask for a quick response, the nervous system trades readiness for recovery. The jaw eases because there is no need to clamp. The shoulders drop because there is nothing to hold up against. The breath stops clipping at the ends and takes its full length. This is not a trick of mindset. It is a reflex doing less work because less work is needed. The more minutes pass without a startle, the more the body trusts its own release. Replace the drop sensation with a steady glide. If your chest expects a dip, give it a slope. If your stomach looks for that elevator lurch, offer it a gentle ramp that never steepens. You can do this with breath. Let the inhale rise like a slow lift to a floor that arrives on time. Let the exhale descend one level, not 10. Keep the edges round, no sudden bottoms, no sudden tops. After a handful of cycles, nerves stop bracing for the cliff that does not come. The brain releases vigilance when movement is predictable. It stops sampling for anomalies and starts coasting on the expected. This shift shows up in small places first. The eyelids grow heavier without losing track. The tongue rests lower and stays. The small muscles at the base of the skull stop pulsing. You can test it by noticing how long you can keep still without feeling the need to adjust. The interval lengthens because comfort holds. Let breath align to the glide. Match your exhale to the ship's slow curve. Feel the base of the ribs meet the same support with each breath out, as if stepping down one shallow stair. Pause for a moment that is not counted, then let the inhale rise by itself. The pace outside does not change, so your pace does not need to. Consistency makes decisions for you. You do not choose the next length. The environment provides it. Your job is only to agree. As this pairing sets in, the margin for sudden effort shrinks. Muscles that used to hover ready now rest on actual surfaces. The mid-back releases in sections. The belly softens enough that the diaphragm moves without a push. Even the hands find a neutral curve and keep it. With each exhale step, another small area stops asking for the next instruction. A still body is not empty, it is satisfied. Drifting replaces dropping. Calm replaces caution. The mental image shifts as well. You are not going down into sleep like a plunge. You are being carried along a slow lane where the scenery darkens and quiets but continues. The system loves that model. It lets the conscious mind fade without setting off the alarm that says, "You lost control." Control remains, distributed across 100 steady signals that never waver. If a flare of alertness tries to start, an old reflex that checks for loss of footing, it meets a wall of sameness. The view turns by the same degree, the seat holds the same points. The hum stays steady. No new data arrives to support the flare, so it dies without a fight. You do not have to reason with it. The pattern answers for you. You can deepen the effect by making one small choice. Reduce voluntary movement. Stay with one position a little longer than you would. Let the neck keep its angle through 2 more breaths. Keep the hands where they rest. Each non-move tells the body it does not need to take charge. Autonomic systems read the vote and continue to downshift. Heart rate trims a few beats. Blood pressure lowers a notch. The numbers take care of themselves while you keep focus soft. Notice the frame stays intact. No sharp lights, no spikes in sound, no changes in temperature. That triangle, light, sound, touch, keeps its promises. The brain counts on this triangle without you thinking about it. When all 3 agree, the gate to sleep opens. It does not swing. It drifts apart a fraction at a time until you pass through without noticing the moment it happened. Keep the breath steady on the glide. Keep the exhale as the gentle step down. Let the inhale arrive without a pull. If a thought rises, let it ride in the lane and thin out at the edges. If a muscle wakes, give it the next exhale and feel it slacken 1 notch. No rush, no drop. Only the quiet carry of a ship in a world that moves on long, easy curves. Hold here. Let the planet keep you. The night around you narrows its light and keeps the floor set. You do not have to reach for sleep. You only let the steady motion place you where it already leads, and let the dark close softly around the edges, while everything you need to hold has already been held. What if the gap between thoughts could stretch like Uranus's seasons? Think of a pause that does not end in a snap, but lengthens until it feels like home. You do not force it wider. The world you're in shows you how long a moment can be when nothing rushes it. Your mind, used to short intervals and quick pivots, steps into a span that holds steady and finds it can stand there without preparing to move. Uranus spends years leaning toward light and years leaning away. That rhythm teaches a different kind of timing, not a switch, but a stay. You can borrow that idea and apply it to the space between your thoughts. The pause at the end of an exhale can hold a little longer. The mind can rest on that shelf without reaching for the next point. With each repeat, the shelf grows by a fraction. Decades-long seasons become a pattern. You scale down into seconds that still feel ample. Busy minds try to fill every gap. They see an opening and pour content into it, plans, replies, replays. Here, the gaps refuse to act like problems. They act like places to stand. The first time you meet a wider pause, the habit to talk into it will twitch. Let it pass without feeding it. The scene offers no prompt to speak. The wind keeps one tone. The light stays low. Nothing asks you to speed up. The gap holds and proves its safety by staying empty. Use the planet's slow rhythm as a guide. Notice how long the ship takes to complete one side of its roll. Let that duration become your internal measure. You do not need numbers. You only need to feel the length of one arc and keep your breath inside it. Inhale along the rise, exhale along the return. At the end of the exhale, do not rush the turn. Hold a moment as the world holds its line, then let the next inhale arrive without being pulled. Spacious timing reduces the compulsion to engage with every thought. When the pause expands, urgency has less grip. The mind sees there is room and stops pushing to fill it. A thought arrives, looks around, and realizes it is not needed. Another lines up behind it and decides the same. The queue thins because the room itself sets a slower service rate. You take fewer tasks because the window is narrow and calm. The work left undone does not flare. It waits, then leaves. Let one breath equal one slow turn. In on the lift, out on the glide, a small rest at the base. Map that cycle onto your body. Feel the ribs move, then settle. Feel the belly soften, then hold. Sense the way the tongue rests when nothing asks it to shape the next word. The longer the cycle holds, the more the urge to fidget fades. Movement can reduce to a small drift at the edge of your awareness. The main work is done by staying. When timing widens, urgency thins. That truth shows up quietly. The heart trims a few beats without being told. Shoulders stop asking for a reason to rise. The small muscles across the scalp let go of their last thread of brace. It is not a dramatic drop. It is a series of longer, easier rests between impulses. The body follows the clock it lives in. If the clock slows, the body enjoys the slack and settles into it. Notice how the world demands nothing, no alert, no call to adjust course. The ring's faint pulse continues, but it does not recruit you. The moons keep their lanes without asking you to name them. The hum remains as level as a line drawn with a steady hand. The absence of demand is the invitation. It says you may do less. It says silence is allowed. In that permission, the pause becomes solid enough to hold you. You can test the strength of the pause with simple checks. At the end of your next exhale, wait one heartbeat longer than feels habitual. Watch for any protest. If a flicker of discomfort rises, offer it the hum and let it ride there. The discomfort loses its edge because nothing in the room sharpens it. Then inhale, repeat. The interval becomes familiar. Familiar becomes easy. Easy becomes normal. The gap you feared turns into the ground you prefer. Your attention adapts. At first, it tries to jump the gap because jumping kept you on pace all day. Here, the gap is the pace. You tune to that. Your eyes may close because there's nothing to track. If they stay open, they rest on a field that offers no demand. Either way, the pause deepens. Thoughts slow, not from discipline, but because they cannot find a reason to hurry. This change reaches small corners. The breath stops catching at the turn. The hands settle without finishing a gesture. The toes soften out of their curl. Even swallowing finds a slower cadence and stops checking for dryness. These shifts happen because the system reads the long, even signals around it and matches them. Entrainment works downward, from scene to sense to tissue. You feel the result as a comfort that does not ask for praise. You may notice the mind testing boundaries. How long can I wait here? The answer appears in the next moment, which looks like the last. You are not losing time. You are living inside a longer unit of it. That unit holds you without effort. A small memory of day work tries to spark. It finds nothing to latch onto. The environment offers no flux to power it. It fades, not because you pushed it, but because it could not gain speed. The long pause becomes yours. It stops feeling like an empty hallway and starts feeling like a room with a chair. Stillness shifts from unfamiliar to honest. You do not watch it. You sit in it. Your breath takes the length it needs. Your body keeps the angle it likes. The internal voice runs out of lines and lets the curtain rest. This is not a stunt. It is the natural outcome of time-given room. Stay with the wider intervals. Let them carry you. You do not have to decide what comes next. The world around you will keep its slow promises. Nothing will rush your hand to the next switch. Let that assurance settle. Let weight find support. Let your pace remain slow enough to match the season of this place. Let Uranus hold you. Stillness is not empty. It is a choice the environment makes and a choice you can learn. You saw how restraint, slow timing, and one steady tone form a pattern the body trusts. That pattern is teachable. Keep signals small. Keep changes gradual. Let consistency do the work. Tonight, borrow Uranus's pause. Set one light level. Keep one sound. Stay with one position longer than habit. Pair each exhale with a small release. If a thought presses, give it the hum and let it thin. When you are ready, stop adding. Let the world hold you. Let the quiet become your pattern. Rest.